and spiritually. Like you said, I started swimming with about $10,000. It was the worst business model probably in the world. I wouldn't touch it now with a 10-foot pole if somebody came to me with the same business model. It was when I started it, I got the idea from a guy in Alabama who had a company called Walhus tea. And they were brewing perishable iced tea in gallons, and the product tasted incredible. I discovered it on a road trip and got an introduction to the owner. And they were selling more gallons of Milo's sweet tea in the state of Alabama than they were gallons of milk. And I found this just absolutely incredible. So sat down with the guy for a few hours. He didn't know whether I was wanting a job or wanting to go into competition against him. But at the end of this conversation, I said, this is what I want to do. There's nothing like this in Texas. Snapple, Lipton, Nestea, Arizona didn't taste like tea to me. They used high fructose corn syrup, tea flavoring, caramel color, artificial flavoring. And you know, it didn't taste like the tea my grandmother used to make. So I moved back to Walmart, $10,000 in hand, used my grandmother's recipe, Mimi. She had this amazing recipe for making iced tea, brewed under 5 minutes, poured over ice, shocks lots into flavor, arrested brewing. And started getting samples of tea leaves from all over the world. Came up with this great blend of tea leaves using my grandmother's recipe and started making bottled iced tea. I'd go buy the bottles, the empty bottles from a little water company down the road. I'd go down there with like 40, 50 bucks. They would get way out a couple of garbage bags full of plastic bottles. I'd go put the labels on by hand, fill the bottles literally with garden hoses. I was brewing the tea in pillowcases, and actually before pillowcases, I would brew the tea leaves because they come in these bulk 100-pound bags. And I was like, what can I use to like let the water go, through this, but not let the tea leaves out? So I used pantyhose. I'd go down to Walmart and buy like stacks of these pantyhose, put my ball cap on and dark sunglasses because no guy wants to be caught in a store buying pantyhose. So would brew it, bottle it, go drive around this old van that I bought for like $2,000 that had 300,000 miles on it, deliver it. It only had a 2-week shelf life. So when I talk about this horrible business model, I had no experience in the industry, had horrible packaging. It was a perishable product, had to stay refrigerated because I cold filled it. It was all natural. And had a 2-week shelf life on it. So I'd go into these stores, beg them to let me put it on the bottom shelf, clear out the cobwebs, come back a week later, a bottle had sold, come back 2 weeks later, 2 bottles had sold, and then I have to give them credit on the rest of the case. So I thought, oh my God, I'm going to go out of business in no time. But what I knew is that we had an amazing tasting product. I mean, this stuff was like crack. It tasted incredible. It tasted like it just come out of your grandmother's off her stove, and she poured it over ice. But everything else was messed up. That was our biggest point of differentiation, and I knew I had to focus on that point of differentiation like a laser beam. So every weekend, I was either doing demos in grocery stores or paying some old woman that looked kind of like my grandmother to do demos in grocery stores, or building these ice-down barrels. I knew that I had to get the product near the registers where they had this impulse buy. So I put the product in these ice-down barrels and spray paint sweet leaf tea on the side of it, get them up there, and sure enough, the people started buying it, and once it started selling, once they started chasing it, it really started growing. It was crazy back then. I mean, 100-hour days, sleeping at the office. It was miserable work. I mean, there were days where if I could have walked away from the business and not had to file personal bankruptcy, I probably would have done it. But I'm so glad I didn't do it. And those challenges, when everything's going your way, you don't learn much from that. It really is when things are going against you and the shit's hitting the fan and it feels like the walls are caving in and you're just stressed to the max. That is what builds intense character. And I can tell you now, when I have intense problems that come our way, whether it's through capital, whether it's through product recalls, whatever the problem, HR problems, they're so much easier, and it just starts to begin a lot more feeling like you're playing a game. then it's this life or death situation. So I'm so appreciative of all the challenges along the way. We knew that in order to grow, we were going to have to get out of this broken business model because we couldn't outsource any of our manufacturing. I knew that we had to outsource our distribution. So we found a plant up in Pennsylvania that would brew with real tea leaves. They would use real cane sugar. I knew that no matter how many changes we made, what we couldn't do is change what made our product different, which was the taste. We had to keep the integrity of the product intact. So we found a company that would brew with real tea leaves. They would use real sugar cane, real cane sugar, and they hot filled the product. So that gave it a 12-month shelf life, allowed us to outsource manufacturing, outsource distribution. We did that. I thought I was going to be able to go to H-E-B and Sam's Club and Whole Foods, and they were all going to say yes to us. Well, none of them would return our phone call. We were still just in Southeast Texas. Called on Whole Foods for almost a year, and finally we got this. I remember getting this card in the mail, and this buyer probably has, he's a friend of mine now, but probably has like a stack of these on his desk, and it's all typed out. It said, "Thank you, we are," and handwritten in there it said, "not interested in your product this time." And I'm like, I go to my business partner David, I was like, "David, they're talking to us." And so I didn't take no for an answer then. We actually went to Whole Foods Distribution, to the president of Whole Foods Distribution, because we found out that he sometimes could get products in the back door into the Southwest region. We got it into the Southwest region of Whole Foods. David and I were in the stores every day in Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, doing demos, talking to customers, giving free bottles to employees who are often our best customers and our proselytizers. And within 6 months, we became the #1 selling tea in Whole Foods Southwest division. The success that we had there got us into the rest of the Whole Foods divisions. It got us into Safeway, then to Kroger, and then into H-E-B without having to pay sliding fees. The sliding fees were the death knell for a lot of little independent food and beverage companies. And we had to raise a lot of money along the way. We raised about $40 million over the years through 4 different rounds of funding. We did a partnership with Nestle about 2 years ago now, and they've helped tremendously. We'll be announcing here, well, I'll keep it off then. But I did a partnership with Nestle. They put in about $18 million and have really helped the company grow. We'll do a little over $80 million in revenue this year. From the humble beginnings of it, literally took me, I think, 3.5 years to get to $500 million in sales. The company really started to grow when I started hiring people smarter than myself. For years and years, my ego got in the way of our growth. I loved being the guy that everybody would come to ask answers for, and I remember the first person I hired that really intimidated the hell out of me was our CFO, and now CFO, COO, Brian Goldberg. He's now one of my best friends, but the guy's so sharp. He's so good at what he does. I mean, we're yin and yang, but operations, finance, systems, processes, planning, everything that we needed to really scale the company, he was good at. Creativity and marketing and the face, that wasn't his thing, but I was so intimidated by Brian the first year that we worked together because he was just so much better than I was at so many parts of the business. And once I got comfortable working with him and really trusted him, we started bringing on more experts, more people that had the Rolodexes, that had the connections, and the company really started to grow. That's when we started going from 5 to 10 million, and 10 to 18, and 18 to 25. So if there's any advice I can give you as you guys, embark on this exciting journey of life, it's the ego out of the way in business and in your personal life too. It keeps you from really reaching a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, and it keeps you from potentially reaching your dreams. So now I try to work on the business a lot more than in the business. I find I'm not near as emotionally attached to the outcome as I am just enjoying the process. So of all of our values at Sweet Leaf Tea on the wall, my favorite value is the journey is as important as the destination. And I hope you guys will all, and women, keep that in mind as y'all embark on this exciting journey. Thank you all very much.